The Pac-12 title game on Friday night is going to decide who wins this Heisman Trophy. If Oregon wins, the Heisman winner is Bo Nix. If Washington wins, the Heisman winner is Michael Penix Jr. That's it. One game is going to decide who wins the Heisman Trophy here in 2023. It's a two-man race. Nix, Penix. That's it. Jayden Daniels, tremendous season for LSU. He, though, I don't think is in contention for it. Here's why. The Heisman Trophy race is a two-pronged race, right? You got to have the stats, obviously, in order to be in the mix. But you also need a Heisman moment. You also need a storybook moment that really defines you winning the award. Look back at any player that's won the award recently. There is a Heisman moment you can pick out and say, oh yeah, of course. That right there. Signature win, signature play as to why they are Heisman Trophy winners. Go back. Every single player. You can find at least one Heisman moment. And so all three have similar stats. Nix, Penix, Daniels. All, for the most part, in the ballpark. Some have more passing yards. Some have a little bit more touchdowns. Some are a little bit more efficient. It's all, I think, at that point, nitpicking. Tomato, tomato. It's all the same. But the separator is that Heisman moment. And look at the Heisman moments Bo Nix, Michael Penix have in front of them on Friday night that Jayden Daniels does not have this weekend and did not have at any point this season. If Oregon beats Washington, look at the case for Bo Nix. The Ducks are in the college football playoff. You have Nix and the Ducks avenging their only loss of the season, winning what has been the toughest conference in the country this year, the Pac-12. And Nix has had an insanely, historically efficient season throwing the ball. I mean, this is a guy, we are in December. He is completing on the season almost 80% of his passes. It's unheard of. It's unbelievable how he can be so efficient, so accurate. When he throws the ball, I mean, honestly, more than 2 times a game. It's not like it's just like one pass here and there. He throws the ball a good amount every game, and he's completing most of those passes each and every game. It's truly unbelievable. But if you look at that Heisman moment for Nix, taking the Ducks to the playoff, revenging their loss, winning the toughest conference in college football in 2023, operating one of the most explosive, consistent offenses in all the country. When you look at Oregon so far this year, their worst offensive game they've had was their most recent game against Oregon State. It was a really good defense, by the way. They dropped 31 points. 31 points is the lowest and worst offensive game for the Ducks this season. If that does not scream potent, explosive, and consistent, nothing does. This has arguably been one of the most explosive and the most consistent offense in college football this season. And Bo Nix is quarterbacking it. There's your Heisman moment. In Vegas, beating Washington, hoisting that Pac-12 Championship Trophy. That is Bo Nix's Heisman moment. For Michael Penix Jr., it's a lot of what I just said, but opposite. If Washington beats Oregon, the Huskies and Michael Penix Jr. would be 13-0, would be also going to the college football playoff, would also win the toughest conference in the country this year, unscathed, by the way, go by perfect 13-0. And I think the deepest and best conference in college football in 2023. And oh yeah, by the way, do so on literally the arm of Penix. Like, what has Washington been critiqued for? Well, they play no defense. Well, they really can't run the ball. They're one-dimensional. All they do is have an elite passing game and nothing else. You can use that as a knock as to why they should not be in the playoff or why you don't think they're going to beat Oregon. But if they do beat Oregon, because of Michael Penix Jr.'s arm, what are we talking about? That is an amazing accomplishment. That is Heisman worthy right there. He went 13-0 in the toughest conference in the country, all on his left shoulder. With no run game to rely on. They had it at times, but no consistent run game to rely on and no consistent defensive effort to rely on as well. Oh yeah, by the way, 2 wins over a top 10 Ducks team. And if Washington wins, 4 wins over top 20 opponents, most in college football. There's your Heisman moment. There it is right there for Michael Penix Jr. So Bo Nix has his Heisman moment waiting for him in Vegas. Penix has his own Heisman moment waiting for him in Vegas on Friday night. What is Jayden Daniels' Heisman moment? What was that one time this year like, holy, how can you believe it? And this big of a game, Daniels made that play. Because whether you want to admit it or not, it's an individual award, but team success absolutely matters. You don't have to make the college football playoff. You don't have to be the number 1 team in the country in order to win the Heisman Trophy. Your team's bare minimum, though, got to be in the mix, or you got to be head and shoulders above everyone else. Daniels, his team is not in the mix at 9-3. I don't think Jayden Daniels, statistically or just how he's played the game, is by far and away the best player in college football. And there's no Heisman moment. Like, if I ask you, like, what is your biggest memory from Jayden Daniels this season? I mean, is it the 85-yard run against Florida a few weeks ago, the touchdown run he had? The Heisman moment can't be against a 5-7 Florida team when your team's already out of the playoff picture. He was bad against Florida State in the first game of the year. Now, this is not his fault, but this is also a fact. Knocked out and could not finish the Alabama game earlier this season. So that was an opportunity for a big Heisman moment. Jalen Milroe took the moment and took over the second half. Now again, Daniels, it's not his fault. He got knocked out. I would argue a dirty hit. But that's what happened. And so we're talking about Jayden Daniels. The stats are amazing. We're not discounting that. But an 85-yard run against Florida, a great comeback against A&M, those aren't Heisman moments. And that's what Jayden Daniels is missing. LSU's been out of the playoff picture for basically 6 weeks. They lost to Ole Miss in the middle of October. Second loss, they're done. So they've been, I'm not going to say irrelevant, that's not fair. But in terms of folks watching college football and looking to see who's in the playoff mix, they've been out of it for half the season. 3 losses, no signature moment. I don't see how Jayden Daniels can win the Heisman Trophy this year. The odds say he has a really good chance. He's second behind right now Bo Nix. But if Bo Nix, let's say, loses to Washington on Friday night, that doesn't mean Daniels wins. That means Penix wins. That would mean Penix outdueled Nix and beat him for the second time this year. That's Penix's moment. Jayden Daniels doesn't have a moment. He'll be invited to New York, rightfully so. He should be lauded for a great year that he had. But when it comes to winning the Heisman Trophy, you need stats, but you also need that storybook moment. It is a story. And not having that moment, I think, is what is going to be the biggest indicator and the biggest downfall for why Daniels is not going to finish first. Why he's not going to be hoisting the trophy. It's going to be decided Friday night, and the winner is going to be Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is winning this year's Heisman Trophy because Oregon is avenging their loss to Washington, and they're going to the college football playoff. And this has nothing to do with it because the voting is already done before the playoff starts. I know there's a Heisman curse, if you will. I mean, Joe Burrow broke that, but for the most part, the stats, kind of like the Madden curse, are not really great for Heisman winners having success in postseason play. But I think Oregon's winning the national title this year.